Hello guys, Crispy here, welcome back to another video. In this one, my friends, I'm going to be testing a GeForce GTX 1050 Ti in the Elder Scrolls IV Oblivion Remastered. This one is the Asus ROG Strix version of the card. I am running it with the latest Nvidia drivers, and I am overclocking it, as you can see here in MSI Afterburner. And you can check out all of its specs here in Tech PowerUp's GPU-Z. We have 4GB of GDDR5, which aren't enough for this game, okay? And over on the left, I am pairing it with the i5 12600KF CPU, and 32GB of RAM. Let's get into it, shall we? Also guys, I'm going to be using the Lumen Begone mod to disable ray tracing, and if you're interested in downloading and checking it out for yourself, you got instructions on how to install it, and I'll post a link down below in the description. So, going over the settings first, I'm starting at 1080p resolution. This is a terrible idea. Lowest settings, Lumen software ray tracing still says low there, but it's completely disabled by the mod, and, well, we're getting 20s. That's not horrible, actually. I thought it was going to be a little bit worse, because when I started, it was, but then I overclocked the card. We gained about like 3 frames per second or so, which is enough to put us above 20 FPS, sometimes at the very least, right? Now, this is with the Lumen Begone mod, as I told you, so the Lumen stuff is not showing up, and we don't have any software ray tracing enabled at the moment, yet the GTX 1050 Ti doesn't have what it takes, okay? It's too slow of a GPU to play this game with, as you can see, and if you want to play Oblivion, I think you should just stick to the older version, install some mods to make it look better, and it will run quite a lot better than this on the little 1050 Ti. That's the way to go. I'm still gonna keep on going here. You can see the low LOD right now from the lowest settings. The vegetation is just showing up out of nowhere. We're reaching 30 FPS at times, so that's not horrible or completely terrible, actually, although it is very terrible because it's the maximum FPS that we get, like 31, 30 FPS. Most of the time it's going to be below 30 frames per second, and in terms of stuttering, it's actually a little bit less stuttery than I thought it would be, because if you look at the footage without looking at that horrible frame time graph, it actually feels okay-ish in terms of skipping frames and stuff like that, and just hard stutters, you know. Obviously, the big stutters, traversal stutters from UE5 are still going to be there, and from the developers not optimizing the game properly, but we also are seeing a ton of micro stutters here because we're running out of VRAM. Again, 4GB is not enough for this title, guys. You can see the allocation there is maxed out, 3.9GB right now. The utilization is at 3.3, but that doesn't really mean anything. Once it reaches 4GB on the allocation, it starts swapping things into the system RAM, and it already did so. So, yeah. With a 4GB card, you should definitely avoid Oblivion Remastered. Alright? It's a very cinematic experience. However, things might actually become playable once we start utilizing like FSR. By the way, the frame generation is grayed out right there, so we can't really disable it. It always comes on by default. And I'm gonna try like FSR performance because I know how the GTX 1650 did here. It was terrible. And well, the 1050 Ti is a bit worse than the 1650, so it's going to be even more terrible. As you can see, this is now a 540p resolution being upscaled to 1080p by FSR 3. It's not doing a good job. There is ghosting, there is pixelation, there is horrible noise everywhere. It's terrible, and there is also a frick ton of stuttering there on the frame time graph. You can see it now, super emphasized every like second or half second or so, and it just feels like crap. We got a ton of input lag as well. Honestly, I'd rather play with 25 FPS than 50 FPS frame generation with stutters. Alright, so oh, wait a second, I want to go to the water here. Yay, there we go. Ah, nice, I didn't die. Good stuff. Oh, hello there. How's it going? Why are you coming towards me? Oh, there's an imp here as well. Wait, we need to kill him. You can still play, as you can see, but it is a very terrible experience, so I would not recommend this to anyone. Alright, even 12-year-old or 10-year-old El Crispo, I would not recommend this to him. Anyway, I'm gonna disable this, and we're gonna go ahead and try it at 720p resolution. Here we go, 1280 by 720 res, utilizing the same lowest settings, no upscaling, no anti-aliasing, and it also is pretty stuttery here in the menu itself. Like, you can see the frame time graphs going crazy there. And now we're getting 30 FPS, close to it, although, look at that. It's just skipping a lot, like, what the hell? Maybe we should restart because it swapped some things that should be on VRAM into the RAM already, and that's why those huge spikes are happening. But inevitably, it will do that during your gameplay session, you know, and, well, it will be absolute trash of an experience. Like, this is awful. It's 30 FPS, but it feels like 15 FPS right now. So we're gonna go ahead and restart the game. Yeah, here we go, guys. After a restart, things already swapped into the RAM because it's at 17 gigabytes there, but that frame time is definitely a little bit more bearable, or was a little bit more bearable for about 5 seconds, and now it's back to the same crap because, again, it already swapped things. So this is the issue with the 4GB GPU here in this title, guys. No matter which one it is, even like the 1650 Super, which is the fastest 4GB GPU, maybe the GTX 980 sometimes takes the crown in older titles, but yeah, 4 gigs just not enough whatsoever here in this one, and this will inevitably happen. So if you have a 1050 Ti, I know a couple of you guys do have it, and you asked me to make this video, yeah, don't buy the game, don't bother, it's going to be a terrible experience. Even if you overclock the card, this is overclocked once again. It's trash. It's a trash experience, not a trash GPU, by the way. All right, I really like the 1050 Ti. It's an old card that fits in a lot of office computers, doesn't consume a lot of power, and you can play stuff like Counter-Strike 2 and Dota 2 very well with it. And there are plenty of older titles that you can play with this card, like Far Cry 3, Far Cry 4, even Far Cry 5 a little bit, and they will run, all right, absolutely fine and look better than this at 720p lowest settings without Lumen, that's for sure. So yeah, even if you do have a 1050 Ti, don't be bummed out. You can play Oblivion in the first game, you know, with some mods, and I think that game with some mods will end up look better than this, with lowest settings possible and no Lumen as well. And guys, the Lumen stuff, if you're wondering, yes, it does make a difference in terms of visuals, and it does make a huge difference in terms of performance as well. With Lumen, we would be seeing around 10 FPS less than what we're seeing at the moment. So yeah, like 20 FPS at 720p lowest settings. Absolutely bad experience, obviously, with the Lumen stuff enabled. And it's still a terrible experience here with the Lumen disabled as well. It's just, no. And over here, for example, inside of the church, since this is a smaller space with less textures and stuff, you can see that the RAM usage went down by a lot, as well as the VRAM usage and allocation there. So things are actually smooth. It's fine, right? It's actually really, really smooth with 60 FPS, 70s, 80s. So much better experience here. But at the same time, you already know what's going to happen if you step outside. And this is something that FSR running an even lower resolution won't really solve, unfortunately. So if we use FSR performance here at the 720p resolution, which is 360p resolution, it starts by being pretty decent, as you can see, 60s, 70s. But in just a little bit, it will fill out everything, and it will start stuttering again. Maybe it's going to take a little longer because the internal resolution is way lower at the moment. So I'm actually going to go outside, you know. It's not too bad looking, honestly, for a 360p image. I will show you what a 360p image looks like a little bit later, you know, without the upscaling and the resolution scaling and stuff. Well, it is going to be with resolution scaling, but yeah. I just wanted to try and make it stutter here to see if it happens, even at 360p, and indeed it does. I wish we could disable the frame generation, guys, but it's not possible at the moment. They grayed it out. Now, let's disable FSR and try this with the resolution scaling, yes, that I was telling you about. So let's do 50% resolution scaling. It's very weird menu. Come on, just a couple of... There we go. Okay, 50% resolution scale. This is what 360p looks like without any upscaling being added into the picture. Yep, So FSR was cleaning it up quite well, even though it was super soft, obviously, but it was nowhere as bad as true native 360p, which is what we're seeing at the moment. Man, this is so bad. Even at 360p, I mean, especially after seeing the 1050 Ti doing such good jobs in older titles. You know what? I'm actually going to bring up some Far Cry here in just a little bit in this video as well. Just so we can look at those graphics. Far Cry 4, let's do that one, yeah? That's a game from 2014, yeah, I believe. Yeah, and that game will probably run a heck of a lot better than this, obviously because it's from 2014, but I mean, it's probably more advanced, technically speaking, than Oblivion. This is just Oblivion with UE5 slapped onto it for better graphics, and that's it, right? Like, new titles need to justify that performance at least by having really insanely good graphics, because that's not what we're seeing here. Yeah, the games look great, but not to the point where these performances are justified. Anyway. Rant over. I just start talking about these things and I never stop, guys. I'm sorry. Let's do 10% resolution scaling just for a laugh here. This is 72p resolution. It's 72 pixels vertically and it's still getting like 46 FPS with a ton of stuttering. So, amazing, isn't it? Goodbye, Bob!
Stop right there,
Shut up, shut up. Alright, let's try some Far Cry 4, shall we? Here we go, guys. We're now playing the 11-year-old Far Cry 4's 1080p resolution using high settings without motion blur, SMAA anti-aliasing. This is the only issue that I have with this title. The AA is not really that great. We got MSAA, which is super demanding, then TXAA, which is a little bit blurry, and then SMAA, which sits in the middle of the two, and I feel like it's the adequate version to utilize with the 1050 Ti. So things aren't super sharp, but compared to any modern title, it's still really sharp, you know? It's just a little bit shimmery here and there, you know, on power lines and stuff like that, vegetation from the trees, but still, guys, everywhere else, it still looks really good up to this day. It's hard to believe this is an 11-year-old title. Yes, it does look worse than Oblivion at max settings or high settings, you know, with a proper GPU these days. But this is the graphics that we had 10 years, 11 years ago, okay, that ran on a GTX 1050 Ti. A mid-ranger, lower-end mid-ranger from 2016. At high settings, buttery smoothly. Look at that frame time graph. Zero stutters. Zero stutters, always above 60 FPS. It's crazy to believe that we went from this to what we just saw in the first part of the video, right? I really like to go back to Far Cry 4 every once in a while. I actually made a video recently playing this game on a GTX 690 from 2012. It was a blast. You should watch that video, guys. It was on ultra settings, most of the things, and it looked even better than this. But yeah, we're just gonna run around here for a little bit longer, getting 69 FPS, very nice. Obviously, if you were to utilize like MSAA 2 times, which is a better anti-aliasing than SMAA here in this title, it would play quite a lot worse than this, and it would drop into the 50s. I actually tried it. I saw around a 10 to 15 FPS drop with that. Still playable, obviously. If you wanted to use that with medium settings, for example, it should still stay above 60 FPS most of the time. But yeah, I feel like high settings is a better showcase to what this GPU can actually do when games are optimized to run on it properly. And I mean, this wasn't even one of the best optimized games back then. It was badly optimized back then, especially on the CPU side of things, because it's super CPU bound, usually, especially with older CPUs from this era. But obviously, that's not a problem these days. Most people with a 1050 Ti will have a CPU from the last, 8 years, and it will do a good job here in Far Cry 4. The textures could definitely use a little bit higher resolution, right? But some of them still look pretty good, especially given this is an 11-year-old game. Once again. Stop, please. Stop. Thank you very much. Stop playing copyrighted music. Big open world, tons of things to do. If you have a 1050 Ti, don't be mad that you have like a slow GPU by today's standards. Don't be mad that you can't play the recent titles, because there are plenty of great old games to play on this thing. So that's been it for this one. Whoa! Awesome little trick right there. See that? That was totally on purpose. Thanks very much for watching this. I hope you guys enjoyed. I really liked to take a look at Far Cry 4. I was getting a little bit mad, you know, with Oblivion, so I thought, yeah, let's try this out. Now, comparing to Oblivion in terms of those animations and stuff like that, it's not fair because they kept a lot of things from the previous game from 2005 or 6, so there's that, you know. But in terms of graphics, we can directly compare anyways. And yeah, Oblivion does look better, but it's also a lot softer looking, and I'm totally fine with these graphics from Far Cry 4. So, there's that. See you in the next one, and as always, love you all. Bye-bye.